Hello class. What I'd like to do today is just run over some InDesign things with you, and I'll be doing this periodically throughout your project. What I've done is I brought in Amazon's annual report, really just the letters to the shareholder section for right now. I'm just going to run over some things that you might have already learned for review. So I've brought this in right now. I'd just like to show you how you can set up different column widths if you wanted to. This is a normal margin that you can see. It's around 1/2 inch on each side. This is great for printing, especially double-sided because of printing purposes and registration and everything. But in case you were interested in experimenting with different margins, you can come over here to Layout, Margins and Columns, and you can mess around with this. So again, normal right here, maybe I would like 2 columns, and you can see that automatically came up. It gives you a default gutter, and the gutter again is the space between the columns, but you can play with that to really get some interesting movements here. I would never really suggest anything that small, so I think I might make mine a little bit spacier, link it or unlink it to be the same. So you can see all those changes symmetrical on both sides. Push OK, and there we go. So now I would just have to fit this box right here. Again, this might not be exactly what you want for your letters to shareholder, but it will give you a good idea of what you are able to play with. So now that I have this, again, I want to make sure the box is activated. If I come over here, obviously it's not highlighted in blue, and I do want that. And we can add a paragraph style. So if we come over to paragraph styles, it always has a basic paragraph style. That's just the way it's always been. I just tend to leave that alone and just start a new one in which I double click to bring in. I'm going to run through a few of these options with you again. Some of them really don't fit with the letter to shareholder right now, but we can get to that in a little bit. So you can always name this. And basic font that they always load in. You might want to add in something that you feel will fit the company. This can be serif, this can be sans serif. I think it really depends on what you want. You don't really get a view here of what the type looks like, so you might want to figure out a few things before that. But I've always liked Baskerville. Again, you have a few options here, and I would always suggest picking a font that has between at least 3 regular, italic, bold, if not 6 to 25. The more the merrier, I say. This way the less fonts you have to use, but the more special interest in the font you can have. Okay? Again, this can be 12, it can also be 10, and you can see it fits a lot better into here. You can work with kerning, you can work with tracking. Again, tracking is the space between all the letters on one line of type. So if I go to 100, you can see that really opened up. And if I go to -75, that is amazingly horrible and tight. So I think Baskerville does a good job at just keeping it tracking at 0. Again, always an option to play around with. Kerning, we don't really want to do that right now. And then just so you know, here are your normal, small, all caps. Again, we don't really want any of this for right now. So with this, you can have advanced character format, so you can work with scale in each of these, so you can see how it's getting bigger with the horizontal, bigger with the vertical. Again, allowing those spaces to come, and even the baseline, so you see it moving up past your margins. And even the skew, now you can see it tilting a little bit more. We really don't want any of that. So we'll go back to 100. Just things to play around with though, and really tweak your piece. And it's good to know that they're there. So indents and spacing, we really don't want to work with that right now. But just you can see different alignment. This would be horrible for a shareholder letter, and so with this for right now. You can see the complications with the rivers throughout. Uh, Interesting spacing techniques that Full Justify uses. Tabs, you can push that, and depending on where you want your type to break. So right here, this is the furthest, this is where our box, where our type lays is situated, but you can push that in even more if you wanted to. Center, right, align to decimal, and you can change all of that. This would be just good to know about, again, special indents and spacing purposes, or even with bullet points. This could help with that as well if you line it up. Hyphen, I really hate hyphens, but they're not really a bad thing unless you use them monotonously, or you have maybe 3 in a row. It should break at a natural point, so franchise is okay. And even if you have a widow that has about 9 to 10 characters in it, 9 to 10 letters, or letters with hyphens, it will work. So relationships could technically sit on its own, even though it still looks a little funky. But if you had the word like report, that would look really awkward sitting alone. So I tend to turn off hyphens for the most part, unless I get some really awkward rag issues of some sort. But it's all about just seeing what works for you and how often they come along, and you might just have to edit those individually. Another thing that you can work with is character coloring. And you can also work with this in character styles as well. So if I wanted everything in red, or maybe one single paragraph in red, I can quickly whip this up and I can change colors very easily. And okay. So those are just some styles for you to work with. And again, I can bring over this red box, load it up, have that there, and now it sort of knows the columns sizes, so it will fit right into there. And you can see that from what I've copied and pasted, they have bullet points. Now again, I can maybe do another bullet point system, or I can just leave that alone, but I'll cover that in the next video. And as we move further, we'll talk about more in-depth InDesign developments, tables, charts, remember placing objects, different things like that, and how those work in with your paragraph styles, or they can work in alone.